So I've been doing a lot of thinking this week about some really quite eclectic topics, but I'm just baffled by this toilet paper epidemic that we're going through. It's this really interesting kind of dichotomy for me, and I wish I understood more about economics to kind of map this out. But we've seen this massive inflation in the perceived value of toilet paper, something that we all took for granted as a pretty stable kind of thing until the last few kind of weeks when everything's really escalated. But I think most of us understand that the actual value of toilet paper is the same. As the demand has increased, our perceived value has gone through the roof. And that's been driven by a number of things, just a small number of factors. But as soon as some people start buying it up, and you'll see this reflected in a lot of stock markets, that as soon as people start buying it up, the resources go down, and all of a sudden its perceived value goes through the roof. And this has got me thinking, it's a lot like the shoe market. I really like I really like paying attention to the concept of reselling sneakers. I am not hugely into it. I've got a few nice pairs of sneakers. I actually won 2 pairs of Yeezys when they first came out in a shoe raffle. So I paid like $100 and I got 2 pairs of Yeezys. And I sold one for about 1,000, another one for like 700. Now I understand as well as you do that Yeezys are not worth that much money. The actual cost of manufacturing is very low. The only reason you can charge that much for them is because of this supply and demand. Their perceived value is through the roof. And I find it really interesting just how the markets kind of move around. But especially with toilet paper, I was talking to one of my clients and they basically told this story of how the toilet paper manufacturing companies have gone to 24-hour production to try and keep up with the demand. Which is interesting and it makes sense. But over a 1-year period, people aren't using more toilet paper. It's not like this is like cholera or dysentery where all of a sudden people need to go to the toilet more, right? It's corona. They're still going to use the same amount of toilet in a 1-year period. So investing in toilet paper companies or having stock in toilet paper companies probably isn't going to be a good thing. In fact, it may be bad because all of a sudden they've got this sudden burst in output and in cost for not really any kind of long-term, maybe even a dip across the long term, because all of a sudden these people with 200 rolls of toilet paper are still going to have 199 rolls of toilet paper by the time this all kind of comes to settle. And that got me thinking about a really interesting fact that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, is that you actually have your blood sold, traded, transferred within hospitals. If you donate blood, if they don't have an immediate need for that blood, they will actually on-sell that in a lot of cases for profit to other hospitals. And that's because blood can only stay stored for 6 weeks, I think 42 days. And so it actually makes sense to distribute that blood as widely as possible. But a lot of people don't really like that concept. It's a bit of a weird one for us to kind of wrap our head around, other people selling our blood without us knowing. So it's a bit of an interesting one. But after a terrorism attack, companies will get this massive influx of people donating blood, which is a really good thing. Everyone's trying to do the right thing. They're trying to help out the greater community. And that's awesome. The problem is that once that initial burst of blood donations has gone through, people don't donate for quite a long time. If you donate once a year, you probably give yourself a pat on the back and go, I've done my part. And you absolutely have. It's awesome. But we get this massive influx, like 9/11, 200 deaths or something, maybe more, I don't know. And horrible, right? But the amount of blood needed in that time period is probably not that much higher than at any other point in the year. People are still having car accidents for the rest of the year. People are still having, horrible accidents for the rest of the year. They need blood. And most people just go within the first few weeks and rush to donate so quickly that we then get this huge spike in donations and this lull point. And it actually dips, and we get the back half of the year or after this incident where we actually have, governments have to run blood drives, and the Red Cross has to run all these appeals to make sure that they've got this constant flow of blood for people that need it. Look, I jumped around a little bit there, but I've just been thinking a lot about this week about kind of the buying behaviors that we have in times of stress, and the long-term effects of that are a little bit interesting, and maybe we should take a little bit of time, maybe not, maybe I'll just sit here and think about it, to kind of take a step back and wonder what our decisions now are looking like over a 1 or 2 year period. So this is my Wednesday rant for you. Have a bit of a think on that. If you find anything interesting, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit here and keep thinking about blood, toilet paper, and Yeezys. So enjoy.